Namo Buddhaya. It is quite easy to be patient and to be calm when the life goes smoothly. But where our real patience comes into test is in the middle of adversity. I know it is very difficult to practice patience for all of us. It is easier to say to be patient. It is easier to advise to be patient, but it is easy to talk about patience, but to practice this quality, it is really, really challenges for every one of us. So although it is difficult, although it is challenging, we have to practice this amazing quality that brings the happiness and the calmness and peace to our life. So let's talk about how to practice patience according to Buddha's teachings. So in Buddhism, patience is considered as the greatest virtue. In Dhammapada, verse number 184, the Buddha says, patience is the highest virtue. The Buddhas say that Nibbana is supreme. And the one who harms others is not a monk. And one who destroys others is not a monk. So in Buddhism, a bigger space and a bigger value is given to the patience and to practice the patience as the practice of patience as an inner quality. Not just to talk about it, not just to read about it or to learn about it, but the real practice. So in Buddhism, the greatest quality in Buddhism, the greatest virtue is considered as the patience also. So what exactly is patience? The Buddha describes this as follows. And what's the patience practice? It is when a bhikkhu endures cold, heat, hunger, and thirst. They endure the touch of flies, mosquitoes, wind, sun, and reptiles. They endure rude and unwelcome criticism, and they put up with physical pain, sharp, severe, acute, and unpleasant, disagreeable, and life-threatening. This is called the patience practice. In another sutta, the Buddha explains about the patience as follows. What is the patient practice? It is when someone abuses, annoys, or argues with you, and you don't abuse, annoy, or argue back at them. This is called the patience practice. So being able to put up with ups and downs and challenging situations and disagreeable experiences in life is called patience. But to be honest, it is really difficult to be patient. Yes, it is difficult. It is going to be difficult, and it will be always difficult. It will never be easy, because that's the nature of all good practices in life. The Buddha said, what brings the happiness to your life? To practice such qualities is the most difficult thing that you have to do in your life. But although it is difficult, we all have to practice this amazing quality of being patient. Now, in Buddhism, being silent, tolerating, and enduring everything out of fear does not mean the real patience. In Buddhism, the real patience comes with a deeper meaning of life. When someone has a deeper meaning of his life, and when someone has knows the true nature of life, then it's very easy for that person to be patient and to practice the amazing quality of patience. Normally, when we tolerate and when we become silent, the reason why we become silent is because of the fear. Sometimes we have no choice to do anything, right? In that case, we become silent. But the Buddha says that is not the true patience. Someone can see such kind of a person and say, oh, he is patient. But that's not the true patience, because that person doesn't have the power. That person doesn't have the authority to do something, right? So being patient out of fear is not the true patience. The Buddha says about the real patience like this. In Vepachiti Sutta, it is mentioned, when a person endowed with strength patiently endures a weakling, they call that the supreme patience. The weakling must be patient always. So the real patience comes when you understand that there is the beast inside you. What is that beast? The anger. And if you're afraid of that anger, and if you're afraid of that beast to control your life, and if you can be patient in that situation by controlling your emotions and controlling your thoughts and controlling your anger and deciding to not to harm that person, that is called the true patience and the real patience. To practice such kind of a patience, you have to do a great dedication. Sometimes you have to go through a lot of hardships. You have to endure a lot. But still, why you become patient? Because you believe that being patient is the greatest virtue that you can practice in life. And you believe that you are much more better than them. And you have a better qualities than them.
If you believe in that, you can truly be patient.
To practice patience, the Buddha offers us a path of thinking in a more deeper level of understanding through our life. So suppose a person comes to you and treat you with rude words, right? Or treat you with their meanness. How can you avoid that situation without even worrying? How to do that? So the Buddha teaches us to look at this situation through the 3 marks of existence. So what are 3 marks of existence? So the Buddha says the 3 marks of existence are anicca, dukkha, and anatta. Impermanence, suffering, and non-self. So anicca. Anicca is the understanding about the impermanence. So the Buddha said that everything in life is subjected to change. If you look at our life, there is nothing that we can hold on to and think and find that is not subjected to change. So once you understanding this intrinsic nature or the inherent nature of impermanence, it's very easy to let go of that anger and to be patient. Because let's say someone blamed you or someone treated you with rude words, okay? Right at the moment that you heard that voice, those words, they became impermanent, right? But here's the problem. Why does we hear the same thing again and again, what they said in our mind, and we keep creating that chain of thought, and we keep creating that anger in our mind? Because the mind has the nature to recreate everything that we heard or what we experienced. Okay, so we think that they abused me, they hurt me, and they treated me with these rude words, so I should not be treated like this. But in reality, those words had been impermanent now. They have been vanished. For an example, the words that you heard from me before, now everything has been vanished. They don't exist. That's the reality of life. But once you're understanding this true and intrinsic nature of impermanence, it's very easy to let go of the anger because you don't find anything to hold on to now. What is the word that we have to hold on to now in this moment to be angry? No, it has gone. So once you understand this true nature of impermanence, it's very easy to practice patience. And the second thing that we have to understand is dukkha. Dukkha often refers to as suffering. So the Buddha said that the pain and suffering is a part of our life. So you cannot remove that. We have to face that situation, okay? Because that is the nature of living. The nature of life is, it is always connected or characterized by the pain or suffering. This is not to worry about the pain or the suffering, but to see it as a part of life and accept it, learn to be with it, learn to deal with it. That is how we can understand the suffering. And the final thing that we have to realize and understanding is the nature of anatta. The nature of anatta is the nature of not self or non-self, right? The Buddha says that there are things in your life that are out of your control. Not every time you're going to have everything according to your wishes. Okay, there are things that are out of our range of control. Once we understand this true nature of another or non-self, it is really easy to accept the truth in life. And it is very easy to not to worry about the things that we cannot control. So if you look at the life, if you look at the situations in your life, in these three marks of existence, the Buddha said that it is really easy to practice the patience. It is really easy to love people, to give your kindness to people, because we know that we are not going to last forever, and we know that they are not going to last forever. What they did was not going to last forever. What they said was not going to last forever. So we can let go of the anger and we can move on. So these are the few things and few realizations that will help us to practice the patience in your life. So keep this in your mind and be patient. Namo Buddhaya. One of the core teachings that we find in Buddhism is to understand the pain and suffering as a part of life, and also to see the suffering and the pain as it is. But this is easier said than done, okay? Because most of the time, when we go through painful feelings and painful situations in life, we used to worry, we used to become frustrated, and we fall down mentally. But the Buddha offers us a different way of thinking to see this pain and to see this suffering, to use that experience to add more meaning to our life. So today, let's talk about how can we move through painful situations in life according to Buddhism. The Buddha gives a wonderful simile for this. The Buddha says, suppose they were to strike a man with a dart, and then they would strike him immediately afterwards with a second dart, so that the man would feel a feeling caused by two darts, two arrows. When the uninstructed worldling is being contacted by a painful feeling, he feels two feelings: bodily, physical feeling, and the mental feeling, or physical suffer and mental suffer. The reason why we worry in the face of this unavoidable suffering in our life is we expect a life without suffering. But life itself has the intrinsic nature and inherent nature of suffering and pain and unsatisfied nature. So, what Buddha teaches us is to see it as a part of life. Do not try to forget it. Do not try to run away from it. See it as a part of your life that always persists throughout your life. And the Buddha says that when an ordinary person goes through these feelings, to escape from this pain, what he does is he seeks delight in sensual pleasures. He chases behind sensual pleasures to distract himself. So that is the normal reaction, isn't it? Normally, when someone goes through a painful feeling, when someone goes through a difficult time in his life, they chase behind sensual pleasure to distract their brains, distract their mind from that pain. For an example, when someone is struggling in their life, if someone has pain in his mind, sometimes some people use alcohol. Some people distract them with alcohol. Some people distract them with sexual misconduct. Some people distract themselves with consuming more and more social media. These days, it is happening more and more. Okay. For an example, if you feel any pain in your life, just check your behavior. People use more and more social media. Why? To distract themselves with that pain, from that pain. But Buddha does not say that chasing behind the sensual pleasure is completely wrong. What Buddha says is that chasing behind sensual pleasure does not solve your problem completely. Why is that? So the more we chase behind sensual pleasure, the more we suffer because of the unsatisfied nature. So that is why the Buddha said, chasing behind sensual pleasure does not solve your problem completely. Why it does not solve the problem completely? Because Whenever we are being struck by a miserable feeling or a painful feeling in life, now we need something material, an external source to distract ourselves all the time. Now, this does not help us to focus on ourselves and find the true nature of this problem and solve it once and forever. Okay, so that is why the Buddha said, chasing behind sensual pleasure will not completely solve your problem. Instead of chasing behind the sensual pleasure to distract ourselves, the Buddha says that look at the pain as a part of life that is unavoidable. And the Buddha says that pain is an inevitable condition in life, but worrying is an option that we choose. Worrying is always optional. So the Buddha used a special term to these ups and downs in life. He called it 8 worldly conditions. The Buddha said that these 8 worldly conditions prevails in this world every time. The Buddha says gain and loss, dispute and fame, blame and praise, and pleasure and pain. These 8 worldly conditions revolve around the world, and the world revolves around these 8 worldly conditions. So, these 8 worldly conditions are like the two faces of the same coin. We cannot separate it. So, the Buddha says that do not worry too much, more than needed, about these painful situations in life. Rather than worrying about it, we always have the choice to stay away from worrying, because pain is an inevitable condition, but worrying is an optional thing, is a choice that we make in our life. So keep this amazing sentence in your mind. Pain is inevitable, worrying is optional. Keep that in your mind and stay strong, stay safe. Namo Buddhaya. Namo Buddhaya. If you take a healthy seed and plant it in an infertile pot or infertile soil, what will happen to the seed? Slowly by slowly, it will start to die. It will never grow. The problem was not in the seed. The problem was in the environment. Same goes with our life. Although we are good people, although we have good qualities inside us, the environment or the people around us can affect the good qualities and can affect our inner values. And that is why in Buddha's teachings, the biggest amount of focus is given for the people who we associate. At one time, Venerable Ananda asked from the Buddha, says to the Buddha, I think half of this Buddhist practice depends on who we associate, or half of the Buddhist practice depends on good friends. Then the Buddha said, Ananda, do not say that. Ananda, the full Buddhist practice, the fullest Buddhist practice depends on, the whole Buddhist practice depends on having good friends and having better friends. In Buddhism, we call them Kalyana Mitta, the noble friends. So, who are noble friends? Noble friends are the friends who they direct you to do good things and to be a better person and to cultivate the inner values like love, compassion, patience, and practicing the Dharma. All these things, the people who help you to develop these things. So, in the Buddha's teachings, having good friends around you is considered as a blessing to your life. The Buddha says this in Mahamangala Sutta. The Buddha says, Asevana cha balanang panditanang cha sevana etang mangala muttamang. That means the Buddha said, do not associate with people with lower qualities. Associate with people with higher good qualities. Okay, having a good association with people who have higher values and higher qualities will help you to improve in your life. And that is why in the Buddha's teachings, a major focus is given to the people who we associate. Even in the monks community, when we are living with monks, monks live in one aim, with a one aim, to practice the inner qualities like love and compassion, sharing, meditations, and spiritual practice. When you're being around such a community, it is very easy for you to practice it. Now, when I began the practice of the monkshood, it was a challenge for us to practice these qualities like meditation. For an example, it was very difficult to meditate in the beginning, but we had group meditations. That means our senior monks meditated with us. Okay, we were sitting with the senior monks and we were meditating, and we see from the beginning of our monkhood, we saw that our senior monks are meditating for hours and hours, and that inspired us to meditate. So, having and being with a community of people who are like minded and being with people who can help you to improve is a blessing for all of our life. Now, when I say this, I know the question that comes to your mind. How can I have people around me that helps me to improve? Okay, because I live in a toxic environment. Maybe you're living in a toxic environment. Now, that is the problem that we most of the other people have, right? And then you may ask, like, I am living in a toxic environment, so how can I find good friends and how can I find people who are going to help me? Well, I know we don't get the exact environment that we expect all the time. There will be always toxic people around us. There will be always unfavorable environments around us. Okay? But from time to time, we get into contact with people with better qualities and better people and with higher values. And do not lose that association. Connect with them, be with them, inspired, get inspired with them, and then associate. Keep associating those people from time to time. The more you associate them, the more you develop the inner qualities. It's something like this. If you grow a plant in a little pot, right? For an example, if you take a bonsai plant, it grows in a little pot, right? So the environment is limited, the soil is limited. Okay, so what happens to the tree? It doesn't grow much. Okay, it start to grow slowly. But because of the environment, because the roots are stuck in that little amount of soil. What will happen if just one root came out of that pot and got connected with the ground? What will happen? The tree starts to grow. Same like that. If you get one connection, just one connection with a better person or a better person who has good qualities and who can help you, you should not lose that connection, right? You have to be connected with that person and you have to grow, and that will help you to grow in your life. So then the environment that you live in will not matter to you because you have that valuable connection with that one person. Okay, and that is why we need to choose the people who we associate wisely, because who we are are the people who we associate. And that is why they say that you are the average of 5 people who you associate. Just look around the people who are living with you. Okay, just look around the people who you share your life and see you're the average of those 5 people who are very close to you. So that is why we need to be very wise and very keen when we pick friends and when we pick people to associate. And if you got just one connection with a person who has better qualities and good qualities that who can help you to improve, never lose that connection. Be connected with that person and improve yourself. Namo Buddhaya. Namo Buddhaya. Welcome and welcome back to another video. We've all heard these words more than 1,000,000 times in our life, and that is to let go of the attachments, and then we will be happy. But saying this is easy, but doing this practically, it is really, really difficult. So let's discuss about what it truly means to let go of the attachments and how to approach it in the correct way. Oftenly, the common perspective of letting go of the attachment is that people think that we have to let go of the things that we are being attached to. That means attachment is occurred by these objects around us. So that To let go of the attachments, we have to let go of the things, and then we will be happy. Now, I have heard these people say that, oh, even the Buddha said that let go of everything and then you will be happy. But Buddha never said to let go of the things or let go of the things that you are being attached to. And also, the Buddha never said that you have to be attached to the things around you. What Buddha said is that understand and realize that one day you have to let go of the things that are around you. And also one day you'll have to be separated from the things and from the people that you love and like one day. And realize this and live with them. While living with them, you have to realize that one day this is the reality of my life, that I will have to be separated from them. These things are subjected to change. And that is the true understanding about letting go of the attachments. One of the misconceptions about attachment is that people think, oh, attachment is an object. So that to let go of the attachment, we have to let go of that object. But this is not correct, because if we have to let go of the attachment, and if we have to let go of the things that we have been attached to, then we will never be able to let go of these attachments. Why? Because as human beings, when we come to this world, there are so many things that are around us. There are so many things that we use, right? So if we had to let go of the things, then we will never be able to do that. Because even the body that we use is an object. Right? This is not something that we truly own. So if we have to let go of the things, then we have to let go of even our body. But we can't do that in reality. So that understand, the attachment is not an object. Attachment is more of a mind-related thing. Just look at these words from the Buddha. The Buddha said, "They are not sensual pleasures, the pretty things in the world. A person's sensual pleasure is lustful intention. The pretty things remain just as they are in the world, but the wise remove the desire for them." So what Buddha says is, just let the pretty things in the world stay in the same way, and you let go of the desire to wanting to them to be in the way that you want. Wanting things to be permanent is what we have to let go. How we should do that? We should understand that everything is subjected to change. Everything is subjected to impermanence, where we expect things to be permanent, and that is what makes us suffering. So then one can ask, if we let go of the desire, will we be able to enjoy the things? Now, here's the thing. The Buddhist understanding about desire is that it is the mental attachment and thinking that these are mine, these are myself, this is me. It's like dragging a cow from its rope around its neck. Like the cow pulls to his side and we pull to our side. And what happens to us is that our hands get hurt. The reason why our hands get hurt is not because the cow is pulling to his side. The reason why our hand gets hurt is we are gripping the rope so tightly, and we are not ready to let go. And at first, letting go of the rope seems scary. Why? Because we think that we might lose the cow. The cow might run away. But in reality, if we simply let go, yes, the cow may run for a distance, but it will always come back. That's the nature. Even in the life, letting go of the attachments seems scary at first. But when we realize that in this life we have gained nothing and we have lost nothing, it is very, very easy to let go. The reality is that in life, we are not owners of anything. We came to this life owning nothing, and we are living this life owning nothing. So in this little time, we are just using these things around us. So we are not true owners, or we haven't gained anything. So if we haven't gained anything, what we have lost. So how can we train our minds to let go of the attachments? What we should practice? Now, the first step of letting go is to understand the true nature of life. What is the true nature of life? That everything, every experience, every feeling, everyone in our life is subjected to this inherent nature of change. We are constantly changing, right here, even right now. When you understand this, you understand that life is nothing but a bunch of changes. So that when these things change, that we have nothing to hold on to as permanent and wanting things to be according to our own wish. Because the life is undergoing even the constant change right now, right here. When you realize that no one, nothing, no feeling, no experience stays forever in life, or in other words, you cannot step into the same river twice, you realize that thinking about this life as permanent, wanting things to be permanent, is nothing but just an illusion of your mind. We are being eluded from our ignorance. That is what we realize by realizing the true nature of this change in life. It is something like this. Imagine you are going to a magic show and watching the magic show. As long as you don't know how to do the magic, how the magic is done, then you get fooled by it. And as long as you get fooled by it, the magic is a magic for you. But what if we become friends with the magician and we learn how to do the magic? And then again you go to the same magic show and watch the magic show. Now the magic is no longer a magic for you. But still, you can watch the magic show, you can enjoy it, but you know how it happens. You know how it is done, so that you are not being fooled by anything. In the same way, when we realize that this illusion of our mind, that thinking about this permanent, thinking the life and experiences to be permanent is just an illusion of our mind, then you can enjoy the life, and also you can live life in a more wiser and a more experienced and a more matured way. So that is the way we understand about the attachment. This realization will make you more understanding about yourself and the world around you. And it will make you more easily enjoy this world in a more wiser and a more matured way. And also, by understanding about this constant change in your life, you let go of the attachment, you let go of this mind and the thought of wanting things to be permanent. And then the process of letting go will become much more easier. So understand that when we let go, we don't let go of the things. We let go of the mental and the emotional attachment towards things. We let go of that craving towards things, to wanting things to be permanent. And when you realize this, you can let go of this attachment and these expectations very easily. So that's a wrap for today's video. I hope you got some idea about attachment. So I wish you, may all of you be well and happy, and may all of you be happy forever. Namo Buddhaya. The nature of our life is we do not know what is going to happen in the next moment. Life is unpredictable. Life is mysterious, and that is what makes the life more and more interesting. No matter how good you are, no matter how talented you are, there are some times, and there will be some times, that things won't go in your way. Life will give you hard kicks. Life will give you tough lessons. I know in those times, we all feel like giving up. We all feel like quitting what we are doing. But you have to remember one thing. Everything that is in life is impermanent. Nothing is permanent. Not even your pains, not even your problems, not even the troubles that you go through today. It is going to change one day. Keep that in your mind and believe in it. This is to everyone who is going through tough times in your life. Please, do not ever quit. Don't give up.
Because the pain you go through today, the troubles you face today, the problems you face today is just a chapter in your life story. It's just a page in your life story. It's not your whole life story. Remember this. If you were to tell your life story in front of thousands and thousands of people after one day you become successful, if you were to tell a nice and a simple and a soft story, no one will be inspired with that story. The more you face troubles, the more you face problems in your life, the more tough your life becomes, your life story will be more interesting. And one day, your life story can be a survival guide for someone's in out there. Remember this. So whenever you're feeling down, whenever you're feeling like giving up, whenever you face problems, I need one thing for you to do. Go out and help someone. This is not something that you hear oftenly. Go out and help someone when they feel down. Okay, give a helping hand to someone when they are feeling troubles and when they go through tough times in your life, because you have to believe that what you give is what you get, right? Even though you are going through tough times in your life, you must be willing to help others, because that gives the happiness, right? The more you face troubles, you can understand how others feels like it to go through tough times. Okay, so when you feel down, always try to help someone. I know how it feels like to constantly fail, and I know how it feels like to constantly fall and be unsuccessful, because I have been through that situation. Okay, so help someone, help people, right? And also do not ever give up. Sometimes you have to be patient, because things get time to work out. Okay, things take times to get better. Okay, remember, great things take time to be successful. Okay, do not believe in quick and instant results, because we are so used to this instant world. Because in this instant world, we need everything instant. Okay, this world is built up to give you everything instantly. The outer sources, when you log on to social media, it comes instantly. You can take something instantly. You can know about something instantly. You can download something instantly. But in real life situations, things are not instant. It takes time. Successfulness takes time, right? Happiness, it takes time. Peacefulness takes time. Relationships to build up, it takes time. Nothing is instant in real life. You have to wait. You have to be patient. So in those times, we feel anxious and worried, right? We feel stressed. But remember, when you feel stressed, when you're tired, it is okay to rest. But it is not okay to quit. Because as long as we live, as long as we survive on this earth, as long as we have our lives, we can have a chance to be successful. We can be better at what we are doing. So this is to everyone who is going through tough times in your life. Believe that one day you're going to be happy. One day you're going to be proud about yourself if you focus on yourself and if you work on yourself. So keep in your mind, no matter how tough the situation is, never ever give up. Keep moving forward. Namo Buddhaya.
Namo Buddhaya. A couple of days ago, when I was reading the Dhammapada, I came across this wonderful verse from the Buddha. This is from Dhammapada, verse number 290. The Buddha says, "If by renouncing a lesser happiness, one may realize a greater happiness, let the wise man renounce the lesser, having regard for the greater." Now this simply says, if you seek a greater happiness in your life, you need to be brave enough to let go of the lesser or the cheaper happinesses in life. Now this made me thinking this can be applied to any area of our life. Whether you are a student who is studying to achieve a greater happiness or a greater achievement in your education life, there are certain things that keeps you away from that achieving it. Sometimes those things can be some pleasurable things, like watching movies, like scrolling on social media. But when it comes to it, like superficially, when we look at it, in the beginning, it's very enjoyable. It has its own entertainment. But the problem is it takes the valuable time from us. It steals the valuable time from us so that we waste time for a cheaper happiness. And what we miss is a greater happiness in the future that is yet to come. So the Buddha says, if you seek a greater happiness in life, you need to be brave enough to let go of the cheaper happinesses that keeps you away from achieving that greater happiness. Now, this is applicable for the monk's life as well. This is why we become monks, right? As monks, we show that we need to seek a greater happiness in life, because as humans, what we seek in life is always happiness. But for a monk, he thinks that I need to achieve something greater than the normal happiness, right? A peace that is beyond from the normal peace in the world that we talk about. But to do that, we realize that it is not possible, or it is really, really difficult to be with the other cheaper happinesses in life, so that we need to let go of them to seek something greater. And that is what even the Buddha did, right? So many people complain that why Gautama, the Siddhartha Gautama, let go of the lay life or the material life. Why did he ran away from the life so that he become a monk? It's not about that he ran away from the responsibilities. It's about he understood that one cannot achieve the greater liberation in life or the greater peace in life, which is nirvana, by staying in this household life. So that he let go of that household life and became a monk. And he started to seek the spiritual path. And he found the nirvana and he found the liberation. And also, he didn't stop from that. He came back to the palace and he helped everyone who was in the palace in his life to achieve the same state of peace. So that if one seeks a greater happiness in life, right, we need to be brave enough to let go of that cheaper happinesses that we are being busy and that steals our time in our life, right? Sometimes it can be a toxic habit that you have, right? For an example, in a toxic habit, it is really, really easy and it is really, really enjoyable in the beginning, but it makes your life so much difficult after. And that is why they say that if you do what is easy today, your life will be difficult tomorrow. And if you do what is difficult today, your life will be easy tomorrow. And that is how the world works, right? For a toxic habit, it is very easy to do, but it makes our life so much difficult. But for a good habit, it is really, really difficult to practice, and it is really, really difficult to make it a habit, but it makes our life so much easier after. Okay, it can be applied to any area of your life. Like, let's talk about the spiritual life. Okay, usually when we become monks, it was really difficult to be disciplined, right? Once you become a monk, first of all, you become a novice monk, and you have 10 disciplines to practice. Right? And after staying as a novice monk, you become a higher ordained monk. And then you get, suddenly your precepts and your disciplines reach up to 227 disciplines. And it was really, really difficult to be disciplined. But once you learn, once you practice, once you dedicate your time and energy to be disciplined, it makes your life so much easier. And after some time, you realize that all these disciplines are made for your life to make it easier and make it so much free and make your life so much independent. Okay, so that is why we should believe that we should attain the freedom through discipline, right? Through hard work. So now take a look at your life. What are the things that keeps you away from achieving the greater achievements in your life or greater happinesses in your life? and be brave enough to say no to them, right? When you say no to them, it buys you so much more time that you can focus on what really, really matters. So keep this little advice in your mind, and let's meet with another video. Namo Buddhaya. Namo Buddhaya. Welcome to another video. From today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you one of the most beautiful poems from the Buddha. Now, when it comes to poems, the Buddha had a great talent of uttering poems or uttering verses. We call them gathas in Buddhist texts. So there's a whole array of books that are dedicated only for the verses or the poems that was uttered by the Buddha. For an example, the Dhammapada only contains the verses that was uttered by the Buddha. Sutta Nipata, there's another book called Sutta Nipata, which contains only the verses. So when it comes to uttering poems, the Buddha had a great talent, and these poems are very rich with the direct teachings from the Buddha and very deep meanings about the life. So here's one poem from the Buddha that can inspire you and also that can give you a lot of teachings about the life. The Buddha says, "Let not a person revive the past or on the future build his hopes, for the past has been left behind and the future has not been reached. Instead, with insight, let him see each presently arisen state." Now, this explains about the mindfulness. This is the whole point of practicing the Buddhist way of mindfulness. Now, when it comes to mindfulness, the word that is given in Pali language for mindfulness is sati. Sati is not always a Buddhist word, or mindfulness is not always a Buddhist word, because before the Buddha also, there were people who practiced sati, but that sati serves a different purpose. Now, if you ask from a normal person who practices the mindfulness or who practices the mindfulness meditations, why do you practice mindfulness? You can answer like, okay, mindfulness helps me to relieve from the stress, right? It makes the things easier. And also it helps me to watch my anger and to control it. Now, it is true that all these purposes are served by the mindfulness, right? All these things are served by the mindfulness to control your anger, to control your emotions, to be more mindful, and also to relieve the stress from your life. It serves that purpose. But in Buddhist practice, the mindfulness serves a purpose that is beyond from these purposes. Okay, the Buddha says, "Instead, with insight, let him see each presently arisen state." Now, this is the whole point of practicing the Buddhist way of mindfulness, which we call sammasati. It is to see the change. It is to see the impermanence nature of life. In the first, the Buddha says, "Let not a person revive the past." That means, if you understand what is past, the past is gone. It is over now, right? So the Buddha says, do not run back into the past. Or on the future, build his hopes, right? Do not build hopes for the future. Why? The Buddha says, "For the past has been left behind." Now, what is past is over now. It doesn't exist, right? And also, and the future has not been reached. Still, the future hasn't reached. So instead, what we have to do is, with insight, let him see each presently arisen state. What we have to do is to contemplate, to focus our mind, to focus our awareness on this present state of mind. We only live in this present moment, right? We don't live in past. We don't live in future. We can't live in past or we can't live in future. We only have the only moment that we own in this life is this moment that is fleeting. So what Buddha says is to be more mindful about the experiences that happens in this present moment. Because if you think about the past,
It is just an illusion of your mind, right? For an example, we can think about the experiences that happened in the past. We can regenerate that experience in our mind. But that experience is something that happens when we think about the past. That experience is something that happens in right now, but it is disguised as past. We think it is past. Who thinks it is past? We think it, right? But that very thought happens in this very moment. Okay, so how to practice the mindfulness is to be less judgmental, or to be no judgment, to have no judgment about the experiences that happens in this present moment, and also to be more aware of it, right? Mindfulness is non-judgmental awareness. For an example, someone can think, okay, when you become mindful, you only keep your mind in the good place, in a good state. No, the Buddha says, saragang va chittang, saragang chittang ti bhajanati. That means when one has a lustful mind, he understands that lustful mind as it is, right? That means when he has anger in his mind, he understands the state of mind, that thought, as anger. Now, the problem is we become so much judgmental about the experiences that we have. Either we try to react positively, either we try to respond positively, or to react negatively, right? For an example, let's say we have an uncomfortable thought in our mind. For an example, like anger. What we do is we try to reject that thought, right? We try to reject and we try to push that thought out of our mind. The more we push, the more we create the anger. Okay, so in mindfulness, what we do is we don't judge, we don't label that thought, we just see it as it is. Now, when you do that, you start to not to react to that very thought. And once you start to not to react, once you stop your reactions, what happens? The angry thought is no longer an angry thought, because an angry thought becomes an angry thought when we start to react to it, right? It's something like this. Like you're seeing a traffic pass by, right? You're sitting beside the road and you're seeing a traffic pass by. You don't jump into the middle of the road and you don't try to stop the vehicles, or you don't try to chase behind the vehicles. What you do is you sit beside the road and you look at the vehicles and understand it as it is, right? So that you don't involve in them. You don't become judgmental about them, okay? And that is the practice of mindfulness. Whatever comes to your mind, you're mindful of it. The problem is why we become angry, why we become jealous, and why all these evil thoughts come to our mind is we are not mindful of it. Once you learn how to be mindful, you start to be less judgmental and less reactive to those thoughts, right? And also, you start to think before you act, right? Your mind becomes slower and slower so that you can catch the very thought when it arises. And that is the pinnacle of practicing the mindfulness. And also then you understand that every thought has its own arising and it passes away, right? So every experience that we have has the nature of arising and passing away. Once you realize this nature, the arising nature and the passing away nature, that is what we call the impermanence. And that is called the true nature of life. In Pali, we call it anicca, the change. Now, the Buddha says, once you realize something is subjected to change, and once you realize that everything is subjected to change, everything is anicca, the next realization is if something is subjected to change, it is suffering, right? It is related to suffering. For an example, every suffering in our life, right? every painful situation, every suffering that we have in our life is due to change, right? We think that we wish the things are not to change, but they change. We wish that certain experiences to not to change, but they changes. We expect that people to not to change, but they change. So every suffering in our life is due to change or anicca. So the Buddha says, yada niccang tan dukkhang. What is subjected to change is suffering. And the next part is yan dukkhang tadanatta. If something is suffering, that should not be considered as self, I or mine or myself, right? So the Buddha says, if something is subjected to suffering, it should not be considered as self or myself. So that is the way to understand the concept of not self. So these three signs of this existence, these three signatas of existence, which is called the anicca, the impermanence, and dukkha, suffering, and anatta, the not self, is the three signata. These are the three signs of this existence, and the whole point of practicing the Buddhist way of mindfulness is to understand these three signatas, the reality of life. So that is why the Buddha says, when you practice mindfulness, when you contemplate and when you focus your mind to this present moment, when it is arising, you know it. When it passes away, you know it. You are mindful of it. And that is the way to understand the true nature of our life. And the next part of this verse is so beautiful. It is so inspiring. The Buddha says, today the effort must be made. Tomorrow death may come. Who knows? No bargain with mortality. That is one beautiful word. No bargain with mortality. Understand that we all are mortal people. We all are subjected to death, and we all are dying. And there is no bargain with it. When that incident comes to our life, we have to get ready to go. So that when you understand this, the living moment, this present moment, is so valuable for you to practice this dharma, for you to practice this spirituality, right? Once you understand that you are subjected to death, you value the value of life. And in the next part, the Buddha says, can keep him and his hordes away, but one who dwells thus ardently, relentlessly, by day and night, it is he, the peaceful sage has said, who has had a single excellent night. Once you understand the true nature of the existence, and once you are not running back to the past, and once you learn how to not to expect the future, and once you learn how to be in this present moment, and to understand the true nature of life, you can live an excellent night, or an excellent day, or an excellent life. So this is what Buddha meant from this beautiful poem. So the whole point of practicing the mindfulness in Buddhist practice is to understand the impermanence of life. So I think this little poem will help you to understand more about the Buddha's way of practicing mindfulness. So I have mentioned all the links and all the things that you need to read about this sutra and this poem in the descriptions below. So go check it out them, and also try to practice this mindfulness in your life. Try to add it to your daily life and enjoy a peaceful and a happier life. Namo Buddhaya. Namo Buddhaya. Welcome to another video. From today's video, we're going to be discussing about how can we use our speech, our words in a wiser way, right? Now, to do that, in Buddhism, we learn 5 things, 5 rules to follow, and ask from ourselves 5 questions before we speak, right? Now, this is taught in regarding to reproving to someone, like showing a mistake to someone. But these 5 rules can be added to our normal day-to-day speech as well. And it will make a greater change, and it will make a greater impact on ourselves as well as others.
So that is why it is important to understand the words that we speak has got power. There's a beautiful saying that says, words can make people and words can break people. So that understand the words that we speak has got power, and it matters. So how can we speak in a wiser way, right? How can we use our words in a wiser way? Now, in Buddhism, we learn 5 rules to follow this, right? 5 questions to ask from ourselves before we speak. Now, the first question that we need to ask from ourselves before we speak something is that, am I speaking in the proper time? Right? Sometimes, even though it is true, even though it is truthful what we speak, maybe not the proper time to speak. Now, what is the proper time to speak? Now, the whole idea, the whole point of speaking is to get the message across to the other person in the correct way. But sometimes, even though we are saying the truth, even though we are saying the right thing, that person who is receiving the message may not be in a condition to get the message, right? He or she may be not in a mindset to receive the message. So that if we convey the message, they may not get the same idea that we are having. Now, the whole point of communication is to get the idea, to plant the same idea on the other person, right? But if we did not do in the proper time, it won't work. And that is why in Buddhism we learn, wait until the proper time. Ask from yourself, am I speaking in the proper time? Right? Now, for an example, if you need to show a mistake in someone, if you need to correct a mistake in someone, now you need to communicate. That is where you need the communication in, like, it is very important at that time, right? The right communication. But if you say that mistake, if you show that mistake when that person is angry, right? When that person's mind is filled with anger, what happens? They may not get the idea. They may not see the mistake that we are showing. Okay? So what we do, we wait until the anger cools down and open his ears and mind. Now, when our mind is in anger, we are not ready to listen to anyone. Right? We are not ready to think about what is wrong or what is right. That is why the Buddha says, Khuddho attang na jananti. When your mind is in anger, you don't know what is good and bad, right? So that we need to understand. If we need to get a message across to that person, we need to wait for the proper time until their mind is open, until their ears are open, until they are ready to listen and understand that message. So that waiting until the proper time is very important when we communicate. That is the first question that we need to ask from ourselves. Am I speaking in the right time? The second thing that we need to follow is, we need to ask from ourselves, am I speaking truthfully? Right? The Buddha says, you need to follow the truthful speech. You need to say the truth. But even though the truth, you need to put it in the right time, in the right place, right? The Buddha says, even I, right? Even the Buddha, even though it is the truth, he waits until the right time to say it. Sometimes it is not the correct time to say the truth, so that we need to wait until that. Now, this doesn't say that we need to tell lies to cover up that. Right? This says that you need to be patient and not panicked until you need to use the proper word. So the Buddha says that speaking truthfully is very important. Why? Because when you speak the truth, sometimes you may lose certain things, but when you speak the truth, you gain one very important thing, and that is the truth. That is the trust. Trust is very important in any kind of relationship. And that is why you need to be truthful, but also you need to wait until the proper time. Okay? So that is the second thing that you need to ask. Am I speaking truthfully? And also we learn in Buddhism that speak gently, not harshly. So that you need to ask from yourself, am I speaking harshly? Am I speaking gently? Sometimes what you say is true, right? When you say is the correct time, right? You say it in the correct time, what you say is the truth, but the tone matters, right? The words that we use to convey the message matters. I have seen a lot of people showing others' mistakes with rude and harsh words, sometimes putting them down, like putting their mentality down and hurting their mentality and showing the truth, they're showing a mistake, but they don't get that message. Why? Because they have hurt their mentality. Sometimes when you use such kind of words, their emotions get hurt, so that they're not ready to listen to it. Now, why we convey the message, why we communicate, is we understand that this is the right thing, this is the correct thing, but I need to make him right. I need to make him correct. I don't need to see that mistake again in his life. I need the good of that person. Now, if you truly love that person, you have to use your words in a proper way so that he or she get the fullest message that you are conveying. And that is why we learn in Buddhism that gentle words can change people's mindsets. But rude and harsh words make nothing but people more stubborn in their own ideas. So that understand, gentle words are the best way to change other people's mindsets. There are a lot of examples even in Buddhism that we learn that the Buddha, how Bodhisattva used the gentle words to change people, right? So that understand, speaking gently is very important. Now, what makes a gentle man and a gentle woman is not how you wear, right? It's the words that you speak. It's the way that you behave. It's how gentle you treat other people. That is what makes you a gentleman and a gentlewoman. So understand that speaking gently is really, really important. So ask from yourself, am I speaking gently? And also we learn in Buddhism that your speech must be beneficial for the other person, not harmful. Now, to do that, you need to have an intention that you truly love that person, right? You truly love your idea to see that in that person's mind and making their life much better, right? See the good on them. Now, to do that, you need to speak in a beneficial way so that that person corrects their mistakes, right? That person's life becomes better by listening to your words. So that the Buddha says that always speak beneficial words, not the words that harm other people's life. So then you need to ask from yourself that, am I speaking beneficially but not harmfully? So that understand, you need to speak to the people to see the good on them. And the final question that we need to ask from ourselves is that, am I speaking lovingly, out of love and compassion, not with inner hate? Sometimes we use our words, even though the good words, good things, but we have the inner hate, right? When we have the inner hate, that is the intention behind our words. And that intention can create negative situations in our life and also the other people's lives. And that is why in Buddhist way of right speech, we refrain from all the negative speeches like rude words, harsh words, right? Or some mean words that has the negative intentions behind, right? So the intention behind your speech is really, really important. So that understand, ask from yourself that, am I speaking to this person out of love and compassion, not with inner hate, right? So the Buddha says that speak with love and compassion, okay? Sometimes some people complain, okay, if we speak with love and compassion, they are not ready to understand it. And we believe that speaking with like kind words and compassionate and gentle words will make other people not to understand what we say. Sometimes they say, okay, to make someone understand, we need to use rude and harsh words. But that is not always correct, right? The reason why we believe that using those rude and harsh words is the only way to get the message to that person is because when we were children, we were treated with rude and harsh words, right? We were disciplined in the rude and hard ways, so that we believe that this is the only way to do that, but it is not, right? If you start to use in the correct way your speech, it is pretty sure that you get the message correctly to that person, and also they understand it and they make their mistakes correct. So that understand, these are the 5 things that we need to follow. These are the five questions that we need to ask from ourselves to get the message correctly, to communicate in a correct way, and also to make our speech wiser. So follow these 5 things in your speech and make your life even more better. Namo Buddhaya.